We'll find out what's out there.
Of the people with disabilities, most of the people you see that you'll notice are people who have mobility issues. They're in wheelchairs or power chairs or walkers or scooters. But we also have people here with vision problems or with hearing challenges and even developmental disabilities, because there are products and services, different solutions and resources they can use just to make their everyday life a little bit easier or more efficient, to help them figure out things they can do.
For Carl Brown, who is about to get married, he's got his eyes on one thing and one thing only.
The car.
John Watkins also has his eyes on a new set of wheels.
At the beginning, I was going to first get me a car, but right now, this year, I might get me a truck. Because I didn't know they had the new truck that could swing and pick you up and everything.
Over 200 exhibitors and thousands of visitors over the course of the three-day expo, connecting those with the know-how with those with need.
Everything from vehicles that are accessible, wheelchairs, power chairs, exercise equipment, durable medical equipment, scooters.
But not everything at the expo was about technology. It was also about fun and recreation, such as the 25-foot accessible climbing wall. The expo, with all its bells and whistles, is coming back to the LA Convention Center in 2014. Not soon enough for some.
I just wish they have it every 6 months, though, instead of every year.
The Abilities Expo started in 1979 at the LA Convention Center. LAPD Chief Charlie Beck takes a stand on immigration and workers' rights during a luncheon honoring the late union leader Cesar Chavez. Gil Reyes reports.
The event at Los Angeles River Center and Gardens honored an icon of the Mexican labor movement, whose influence lives on in today's LAPD, according to its chief.
That will be the role of the police department, not to protect the interests of the rich, but to protect the interests of everybody, especially those that need protection the most.
Cesar Chavez co-founded the group that would become the United Farm Workers Union. Through peaceful demonstrations, supporters say Chavez's efforts improved the lives of the underdog, union laborers from immigrant communities who didn't have a voice. Today, the fight continues, but labor leaders say with more support these days from the LAPD.
We've been marching on May 1st since 2000, but with one very significant aberration of which we have all learned. Our police department has protected our peaceful assembly and worked with diverse organizers to make some of the largest marches in history, some of the most peaceful and safe. So for that, you deserve a round of applause and a huge thank you. Thank you, LAPD.
The LAPD's partnership with immigrant communities hasn't always been perfect. Accusations of police brutality and profiling through the years. Also, the May Day rally of 2007 that saw officers clash with demonstrators. But LAPD Chief Charlie Beck says his officers are working to bridge the gap.
As we work through those issues, we define a path for the rest of the nation. And I'm proud to be part of that. I'm proud to be your partner. I'm proud to be your friend. Thank you very much.
In Cypress Park at the luncheon celebrating Cesar Chavez on what would have been his 86th birthday, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
The LAPD has reached out to immigrant communities in other ways. Recently, Chief Beck has gone on record to support driver's licenses for undocumented workers, also not turning over to federal authorities undocumented immigrants arrested for low-level crimes. Baseball season is here, and there's a free Dodger shuttle to boot. The LAPD makes headway in a Northridge kidnapping case, and the city begins a string of meetings in advance of fixing up LA streets. These stories and more in City Beat. Dodger fans, leave your cars at home and instead take Metro to Union Station downtown, then hop on the Dodger Stadium Express. The ride is free as long as you present a valid Dodgers ticket. Service will run every 10 minutes starting 90 minutes prior to the start of the game and run every 30 minutes throughout the game, with service ending 45 minutes after the end of the game. More info can be found by going to metro.net. It's a case that shocked many Valley residents, the alleged kidnapping of a 10-year-old Northridge girl from her home in the middle of the night. Now, robbery-homicide detectives have arrested Daniel Martinez of West Hills in connection with the kidnapping on March 27th. 29-year-old Martinez was arrested in Northridge Easter Sunday. As of our news deadline, the second suspect wanted in connection with this case, 30-year-old Tobias Dustin Summers, was still being sought for his involvement with the kidnapping. The proposed $664 million Millennium Hollywood project, which would include two 55-story skyscrapers sandwiching the 13-story Capitol Records building, has drawn the objection of Councilman Tom LaBonge. LaBonge, whose district encompasses the area of the project, says the proposed towers would mar the Hollywood landscape. With almost 500 residential units and 200 luxury hotel rooms, the large-scale project being proposed by New York-based developer Millennium Partners was approved by the City Planning Commission, but still needs council approval. Councilman Joe Buscaino, chair of the Public Works Committee, has announced a series of special committee meetings to discuss LA's notoriously bad streets. In January, Buscaino and Councilman Mitchell Englander proposed a bond measure to fund the repair of 8,700 lane miles of streets in the worst condition, but then asked the City Council to delay acting on the measure after neighborhood councils requested more time to study it. The City Council's Public Works Committee will now hold a series of special meetings in the month of April with city officials and engineers before holding another series of meetings to get input from members of the public. The city's dedication to creating more green space is more evident than ever as new parks and upgrades to existing parks continue to pop up around the city. And the latest in line for a makeover is Evergreen Recreation Center. Right now, children who play at the Evergreen Rec Center in Boyle Heights have a few swings and a jungle gym to enjoy. But soon, kids and adults will enjoy a brand new park, complete with a so-called tot lot for children up to 5, a playground for youth 5 to 12, and an adult fitness zone with shade protection over all the kid and adult equipment.
We in the Latino community in particular are suffering from high rates of obesity and other health-related problems associated with obesity. So when you improve parks in heavily populated Latino communities, it makes a huge difference. And when we invest a little in playgrounds and park space, it goes a long way.
First 5 LA, a partner in this project, is involved in some 40 such tot parks and trails to be located throughout Los Angeles County to address childhood obesity. The Los Angeles Neighborhoods Initiative is also a partner in the project, helping to secure funding and community support.
We have 13,000 children under the age of 5 within a 2-mile radius. What better place could there possibly be to build these kinds of improvements?
The park's makeover will cost around $600,000, with half coming from the city's Department of Recreation and Parks and the other half from First 5 LA. Because city leaders say at a time when the city's facing economic hardships, public-private partnerships and the support of the community are what make new park construction and park makeovers like this one possible. In this week's list of things to do, enjoying art under the stars, learning about how to care for those with Alzheimer's, and a free family-friendly film screening. Every summer, the Museum of Latin American Art presents Murals Under the Stars, one of the most exciting outdoor artistic experiences in Southern California. Using the most advanced projection technology, the murals created by famous Mexican artists will be projected life-size onto an outdoor wall, giving viewers the sensation of experiencing the original murals in person. It all takes place on Saturday, April 13th at 7 p.m. at the USC University Park Campus International Plaza, located at 3607 Truesdale Parkway. This event will also include live music and a dynamic talk by Gregorio Luke, an expert on Mexican and Latin American art and culture. Call 213-740-0483 for details. The Alzheimer's Association is hosting its 2013 Early Memory Loss Forum, Claiming Our Lives, Planning Our Futures, at the Los Angeles Convention Center on Saturday, April 13th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The conference is designed for those who are in the early stages of Alzheimer's, who have mild cognitive impairment and other dementias, as well as for their family members and caretakers. The Los Angeles Convention Center is located at 1201 South Figueroa Street downtown. For more information, visit alz.org. Catch a free family flick at the Hammer Museum on Sunday, April 14th. The featured film, The Kid, will screen from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. In this 1921 film, Charlie Chaplin shares the screen with 6-year-old Jackie Coogan in this heartwarming and hilarious portrait of a tramp and the orphan boy he raises into a fun, industrious little tyke. The film is appropriate for children 6 and up. All Hammer public programs are free, but you do need to obtain a ticket at the box office. The Hammer Museum is located at 10899 Wilshire Boulevard. More info can be found at hammer.ucla.edu. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do. For 76 years, the Los Angeles Mission has served the homeless population downtown. The homeless shelter recently hosted its annual Good Friday Easter event for thousands of Angelenos. Cindy San Luis takes us there.
The food's good. They're going to give tennis shoes out. We're lucky today.
Countless volunteers were on hand at the Los Angeles Mission's annual Good Friday Easter event to provide a meal and give some cheer to some of Los Angeles' homeless.
So you enjoying the meal?
Yeah, very much.
Is this a Good Friday?
Yeah.
Good.
It's just really inspirational to see that, we can do something for the homeless community, and it's a great day for them to have the feeling that they are a part of the community and that there are people that want to give back to them.
The Etnies brand shoe company donated 2,000 pairs of shoes and has done so for the past 16 years at the event. Etnies president and CEO himself was homeless when he came from France to Venice, California, about 27 years ago.
He has a great idea of giving back, and I just wanted to be part of this. I think it's a great thing that the LA Mission does.
Smiles were on children's faces as they received Easter baskets with toys. And in the spirit of Christian giving, volunteers washed the feet of the homeless just like Jesus did for his disciples. This is Oscar Alvarez's first time here, and he is grateful.
It's a blessing. I thank God for this. That's good. Very good.
About 3,500 meals were served and many hearts were opened as volunteers like Todd Furuike say they've found a new tradition for Good Friday. I'm Cindy San Luis for LA This Week.
That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you could catch us online at lacitieview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Graffiti removal? Call 311, the toll-free number for non-emergency services. 311, your one call to City Hall.
G'day, Troy McCubbin from North Hollywood. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35, our city, our channel.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, April 9th. I want to welcome you to the Los Angeles City Council. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at approximately 10 o'clock. Madam Clerk, I believe we have a quorum. Could you please call the roll?
Alarcon, Buscaino, Englander, Garcetti, Wizar, Carrasco, Corrigan, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosenau, Zion, Weston. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Zion moves, Parks seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Buscaino moves, Krikorian seconds.
Mr. President, today is Tuesday, and now would be the time for the flag salute.
If I could ask everyone to please rise. We'll be led in the flag salute by Council Member Dennis Zine.
Place your hand over your heart. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Madam Clerk, can we proceed by going through the today's agenda? If we could start off with the first set of items.
Items 1 and 2 are items noticed for public hearing. The Department of Building and Safety reports that items 1C and D may be received and filed inasmuch as the liens have been paid.
Okay, without objection, that'll be the order. Do you have cards?
Yes, cards on items 1 and 2, and also there's request the lien amount for item 1H should be reduced to $353 due to receipt of partial payment. And also there's request to continue item 1J to May 10th.
Okay, without objection. Okay, let's move on to the next section.
Items 3 through 5 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Specials, members, specials. Okay, let's, Mr. Buscaino.
Item 3, please. I just had a couple questions for staff.
Okay, let's hold item 3. Let's prepare.
Thank you.
3 through 5. So let's hold item 3. Let's vote on the remaining items. Let's, Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, let's move to the next section. Items 6 through 30, I believe.
Yes, items 6 through 30 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration.
Okay, without objection, those items are now before us. Members, specials, Mr. Parks.
Yes, could I have 28 and 29 special and combine them?
No problem. So we will hold 28, 29, and we will combine them. And that's at Mr. Parks' request. Members, other specials? Members, other specials?
13.
13 for Mr. Krikorian. There's a request to continue 23 for 1 week, and that would put us where, Madam Clerk?
April 16th.
Okay, so without objection, we'll do that. Do we have Mr. Krikorian?
14 as well, please.
14 as well for Mr. Krikorian. Cards.
Cards on items 6, 7, 8, 9, 13, 14, 21, 24, and 28.
Okay, we'll hold those items as well. So, Madam Clerk, let's prepare to vote on the remaining items. Let's open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Have we completed the agenda, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Buscaino. Forthwith on item 11.
Chip.
Mr. President, that takes council to presentations or items called special.
Okay, Mr. Alarcon, are you ready? And Mr. Koretz. Mr. Koretz and Richard.
Presentation.
You have presentation. Are you ready? Okay.
I think mine's scheduled for 11:30 time certain. So.
Okay. Oh, I see that now. All right, now we want to defer to Richard Alarcon.
Can we do
Yes, Mr. Buscaino.
item 15? Can we send that forthwith, please, for the harbor?
Forthwith as well.
Thank you.
Item 15. Mr. Alarcon, the floor is yours.
Council members, it's my great pleasure to recognize an organization that is both local and national at the same time, and I'm speaking of the National Boys and Girls Clubs of America. Today I am especially featuring the Boys and Girls Club in my district, the Boys and Girls Club in Pacoima, and to announce that this week, April 7th through the 13th, is National Boys and Girls Club Week. This week, clubs around the country open their doors, show off their club spirit, and have a week full of fun events for their members and families and the community. But it doesn't have to be National Boys and Girls Club Week for us to understand the important role that Boys and Girls Club play in our communities. I am joined by Nicole Chase, the Marketing and Development Director for the Pacoima Boys and Girls Club, but I have to mention that she was my former student when I used to teach at Mary Immaculate in Pacoima. So I can certainly speak to the importance of the Boys and Girls Club as I have watched her emerge with her career. The Boys and Girls Club of San Fernando Valley has been a partner and ally in our community for as long as I can remember. I've known the president and CEO, Leroy Chase, Nicole's father, since working for Mayor Bradley. In fact, I knew him before that when I was a teacher, but my staff didn't know that, so they didn't put that in the notes, but that's okay. But the fact of the matter is he ran against me for city council. And since I won, we sat down and committed to work together for the good of the community, and we've been doing that ever since. The Boys and Girls Club are dedicated to promoting leadership, character, health, and career development while emphasizing social, cultural, and educational growth among youth ages 7 to 18. The clubs provide a much-needed space for kids to grow, learn, and play, a safe space in sometimes unsafe neighborhoods. The clubs provide a safe and positive place where warm, caring adults serve as guides to young people while they explore programs tailored to promote their future development. In fact, the Boys and Girls Club in the San Fernando Valley, in the Pacoima branch, is absolutely connected to the city because they work with us on their lease agreement for the property that they utilize. So for over 46 years, the club has been in the forefront of youth development in impoverished community of Pacoima, working with young people from disadvantaged economic, social, and family circumstances. Today, the club is able to provide services annually to more than 2,000 young people and their families. Since it was founded in 1966, more than 70,000 youth have come through the club's doors. A great future start here is their saying each and every day. To date, the club is one of the oldest non-for-profit full-service youth agencies in Pacoima, operating out of a 30,000 square foot complex with a gymnasium, games room, multipurpose room, arts and crafts shop, computer center, educational center, college and career center, teen lounge, outdoor track, weight room, administrative and counseling offices, and other rooms designed to serve the social, recreational, and educational needs of young people. The club provides community members access to physical fitness classes, after-school sports, arts and crafts, visual and performing arts, computer training and tutorial assistance, vocational training, and leadership development activity. It's been my pleasure to support the Boys and Girls Club of the San Fernando Valley throughout my years in office because I see the real concrete impact of the club. The students and staff are here today to speak about that real impact. I'd like to present them to you, and I don't have them, so I'm going to start with a person I do know, and that's Nicole Chase, who is the Marketing and Development Director for the Boys and Girls Club, San Fernando Valley at Pacoima.
Let me jump in, Ms. Chase, before you begin to speak. I want to say it was just last week I saw your father here in the building. He's been a dear friend of mine for, in fact, I won't tell you how long. So it's good to see you. And personally, I have always tried to support the Boys and Girls Clubs. I've done a lot for the Watts Willowbrook Boys and Girls Club. In fact, Mr. Buscaino and I even humiliated ourselves last year when we impersonated golfers at a fundraiser. So, but we looked good. But anyway, I recognize all of the hard work that you do and the magnificent things that you do for children. This organization is all over the country, and even though people might have been a little upset with the way LeBron James left my Cleveland Cavaliers, he was able to raise, I want to say, approximately $2.5 or $5 million for Boys and Girls Clubs. So I'm glad that so many people recognize all of the work that you do in the community and all of the people that you help. With that said, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Alarcon, thank you so much. I'll give you a minute here to speak. And I just want to thank Richard for bringing forth the Boys and Girls Club of the Valley, but most importantly, highlighting the good work that you do day in and day out to ensure that our kids have a safe place to go after school during summer. And as Mr. Wesson alluded to, we helped with the Watts Willowbrook Boys and Girls Club. Whether if you're in Watts or down at the LA Harbor Boys and Girls Club, that now has a college-bound program that serves as a national model. Or if you're in Harbor City at the Boys and Girls Club there, regardless of where you're at in the city, the Boys and Girls Clubs have done phenomenal work at ensuring that our kids have a safe place to go, to ensure that they have the arts, the athletics, the academic programs in place. So I want to stand as a former board member of the LA Harbor Boys and Girls Club, a club that is as a kid growing up, the San Pedro Boys Club at the time, I remember going to each and every summer. My mom dropped me off with my cousins and doing the wood shop there on Cabrillo and 12th Street. And it served as a purpose to all kids in the Harbor area. So thank you, Mr. Alarcon, for bringing forth the great work that the Boys and Girls Clubs do, not only here in the city, but also on the national scale. Thank you, God bless you, and thank you for serving our kids.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, I'd like to talk a little bit about Mar Vista Gardens in Venice. The Boys and Girls Club of Venice are taking it over now and monitoring it and working with it. We have the ability to play soccer at night and other sports at night, and to keep people truly engaged. But they stepped forward. We put out a request, and they're now going to be running the Mar Vista Gardens, which is 700 public housing projects. So I love the Boys and Girls Club. They've been involved in all kinds of good projects in Venice, in Mar Vista, in Del Rey, and I just want to acknowledge in general that the Boys and Girls Clubs make a huge difference for all of us. Thank you very much.
With that said, you're on.
Thank you so much to President Wesson, President of the Council Wesson, and all the council members. Thank you so much from my heart as a representative of the Boys and Girls Club of San Fernando Valley, and also for the Boys and Girls Clubs throughout LA County, which is a very strong alliance that all of you members, board members, have touched and changed the lives of the members that walk in through our doors every day. With regards to Watts Willowbrook, there's a sincere connection there because the founder of the club, Roy Roberts, and my father were best friends, and so they've always worked closely over the years, as well as with the other Boys and Girls Clubs. Today is a phenomenal day for allowing us to come in here and share with you what we are so excited about doing each and every day. But if you would allow me one more moment of your time, I would like to introduce you to our Youth of the Year, Kimberly Favela, and she would just like to share with you.
Let's give Kimberly a round of applause. Youth of the Year.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, good morning. My name is Kimberly Favela Rojas, and I am a current sophomore at Verdugo Hills High School. It is truly an honor to be here representing the Boys and Girls Club of San Fernando Valley as this year's Youth of the Year. I find that the club is my second home. The club was not always a place I'd love to go. Quite honestly, I hated it at first because I was forced to go. A year or so back, I was on the wrong path, which my parents and siblings couldn't tolerate anymore. They just cracked. They began looking for boot camps to give me discipline, but one day they crossed paths with the club, and they liked what it had to offer. My mother signed me up and began taking me daily. I didn't really know anyone, so I kept to myself. After a while, I began to bond with the art director, Dwayne Campbell, and I focused more on art. Over the time, the club changed me completely with the activities and the good role models surrounding me. The club became my second home. I was glad to be going there. Eventually, I myself became a good role model with my good deeds and kind acts. The club has many things to offer to both kids and teens, such as the pool and foosball tournaments. They have an amazing art program. The Learning Education Center helps us successfully complete our homework and projects. And the Teen Room, a place where us teens can hang out and interact. The Boys and Girls Club is a place where everyone can go enjoy and begin to create new friendships. They give you many opportunities to thrive, and the staff always pushes you to do your best. The club has truly changed my life and given me a whole new meaning to living my life to the fullest. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Mr. Alarcon, maybe we could have Nicole introduce the gentleman that's behind you.
Please. The gentleman who has been with our club for a very long time, since I was very little, just kidding, is Dwayne Campbell. He is our arts director, and he has done a phenomenal job with the young people, for example, Kim Fabula, and helping them to really experience and expand their horizons with regards to creative arts and beyond.
Let's give him a round of applause. And thank you, sir, for all your work.
Council members, I do want to remind us, because all of us have worked with the Boys and Girls Club, that it's not a place just for kids that have had troubles in their lives. It's a place for the 90% of the kids who are not causing any trouble in our community but don't have a place to hang out. And that's, I think, the most important attribute of the Boys and Girls Club. And so with that, I want to provide this certificate of congratulations to the Boys and Girls Club of the San Fernando Valley. And again, to salute all the Boys and Girls Clubs, because those of you who work with them know that without them, we would be in a world of trouble. So thank you so much.
No, thank you again, and congratulations. Okay, before we go to the next item, I want to take, I'm going to jump around a little bit where it relates to general public comment, and I'm going to call two speakers up now, and that would be Sean Murphy and Thomas, I think it's Nito. Just wait a minute, Sean. Mr. Murphy, please come forward.
Yes, good morning, Mr. President. How are you doing?
Good.
The streets need to be fixed. They did a good job on Satakoy. I'm going to be celebrating some 3 weeks from tomorrow. That's it.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, Mr. Thomas, is it Nito or Nito?
It's Nitty, sir. Thank you. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's not clear. I'm sorry.
Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you. My client, Balu Patel, owns 718 South Union Avenue, a 65-unit building in the 1st Council District. My client's 65-unit building was put into REAP and all of his rents confiscated on April 1st, 2013. He was put into REAP because he did not appeal the REAP notice in time. He did not appeal the REAP notice because he received it from the Housing Department after the appeal deadline had passed. The Housing Department would not hear a late appeal. The REAP notice arrived late because of a 1-digit error in his zip code on the property tax bill. To answer your question about what is wrong with the building, the central heater needs replacement. The new heater is sitting in the basement waiting to be installed. It cannot be installed for 2 reasons. First, Ordinance number 152.04 requires a 60-day waiting period to install a heater. That makes no sense. Second, the city will not let the 60 days begin to install the heater until the owner pays a $29,000 rent control fee and a SCEP fee on the building, even though he pays a tenant occupancy tax on 52 of the 65 units. The housing department says it's an apartment building and wants apartment fees. The finance department says it's a hotel and wants a tenant occupancy tax. The departments don't talk to each other. Meanwhile, my client cannot collect any rents because of REAP, and the tenants are without heat. I ask the City Council's help in solving this. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Bill, how many people do you have with you? I have Araceli, Gonzalez, and then you.
I think I got about 9 people that want to speak. About 9 people, Mr. President.
Okay, well, I'm going to take you and this Araceli now, and then I've got to go back to the regular agenda.
I really appreciate that because it'll get them out of here. Stand behind me or stand up. Thank you, Mr. President, for that courtesy. My name is Bill Huey. I'm the president of Fair Housing Coalition. We're a civil rights organization for landlords. We believe in equality under the law for landlords and renters. And I know most of you on the City Council personally, I know you're good people, but you really haven't understood what the LHD is doing. It's run by criminals. I'm just telling you, they violate the Constitution. Even in my own case, they put me in REAP because they don't like me because I come here all the time. And I've spent $1,400 fixing my building. I turned in the receipts and I said I'd like to get the $1,400 back so I can do more repairs, and they won't give me my money. I'm not asking for a loan. I'm not asking for a grant. They got $4,400 of my money, and if I could do that, I could fix my building. I'm not a bad landlord. It's just that I have poor families who have a lot of children, and they've overcrowded the building, and the building was built in 1929. So it's a bunch of criminals over there. I believe in my heart these people have communism in their heart. They're anti-entrepreneurial, and it's landlords like us who make housing affordable in Los Angeles. So something has to be done. They're stealing money. I'm going to get a copy of the audit. I thank you, and I need all the landlords to stand up so they're here. These are hardworking people. They're not cold corporations. These are people who reach out, make affordable housing. They've worked hard all their life. A lot of them are minorities. They're losing their buildings because of REAP. And then these phony baloney charities are getting them that are in cahoots. It's just, the whole thing is putrid from top to bottom. I have some former employees from the LHD that are going to appear in a documentary we're making, and I feel bad because when this documentary goes national, I have friends at 60 Minutes in 2020, it's going to make LA look highly corrupt. So I'm coming to you and say, look, let's fix the problem now before the whole country thinks we're a bunch of thieves. Thank you very much. Bill Huey, FairHousingCoalition.com.
Thank you, Bill. Araceli? Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, good morning. My name is Araceli Gonzalez. Me and my husband own the house at 3229 West 60th Street in the 8th Council District. At the beginning of February 2013, we received a letter from the Housing Department dated January 31st, 2013. The letter said to immediately vacate the tenant in the back of the house and pay a large relocation fee. Apparently, the tenant's room in the back was unpermitted and an electrical wire needed a small repair. We were not aware of this. We contacted the city and tenant and offered the tenant a hotel room. We also offered the city and tenant the choice to move into the vacant permitted front of the house. We were ignored by the city. The tenant said she preferred the money. On February 8, 2013, my attorney filed an appeal and offered to relocate. The appeal was ignored and the city paid the tenant over $18,000. The city is now attempting to put a lien on my property for $28,000. The bill says I have no rights to appeal. This is truly unfair to my family. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Okay, is Mr. Alarcon back? I don't see him. Mr. Labange? You want to go to item 14?
Okay.
And we do have cards on item 14, Mr. Labange. You want me to go through the cards?
Just go through the cards, and I think everybody's happy about this good result. You okay with that?
Sean Murphy, John Walsh, item 14.
Yes, item 14, I'm for it, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, for identification purposes only, chair of the Anybody But Garcetti
Stay on the item.
Mayor. So it took him 5 seconds to interrupt me, okay? John Walsh, chair of the Anybody But Garcetti Committee.
Okay, Mr. Walsh, please. You know, I enjoy when you come down here, and I mean that sincerely. Stop the clock. But you're going to have to stay on the item. When you get general when you get general public comments, you can basically say almost everything. But I have to be given the ability to run this council. Now, stay on the item.
Number 14, this is water. Now, I want you to realize that water is the manna from heaven. Water makes things go around. Without water, the real estate means nothing. That's for long-term reliable water supply. Vote no on the water bond, because all the water bond does is allow them to build, 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 build. No water bond, no building. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Labange.
This is a water agreement between the County Universal City area and the City of Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. I ask for an aye vote.
Okay, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Alarcon, item number 6.
Can I ask Mr. Terry McGiddy to take the center stage?
Well, you know, I do have 2 cards on that. I have Mr. John Walsh again, and I have Donna Pearman. So if you guys would come forward, Donna, you're closer. You can go first. And Mr. Walsh, if you could begin to make your way down.
I just want to say really quickly that Disability, that's a great organization. Department of Disability was going to reopen Van Nuys video conferencing for disabled people in the Valley, but our mayor would not let it, so it's not about money. They're concerned about people who are disabled, and I hope that they'll be able to get open to video conferencing for disabled people. Thank you.
Mr. Walsh.
100% for video conferencing. This concerns appointment of Terry Magedy to the Commission on Disability. I just learned out, you might ask Ms. Magedy, that everyone who is appointed has to write a boilerplate letter of resignation to the mayor and sign it before he appoints them. So therefore, if they vote against anything the mayor doesn't, if they vote against the mayor, he then sends the letter out. He dates it and sends it. I want to know if the mayor does that all the time, because Hahn never did it, Bradley never did it, and I never said a word ever against Bradley in this meeting because I respected him, ever. And you can ask his relatives. I want to know for a fact whether the mayor has dated boilerplate letter from Mr. Magedy for resignation in case he votes the wrong way. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. That concludes public comment on this item. Good morning, sir. And Mr. Alarcon, we defer to you.
Yeah, council members, we waived this item out of committee, but I did have the pleasure to meet with Mr. Magedy, and can tell you that he is somebody who is passionate about his commitment to the disabled community. He is a lawyer who has practiced for many, many years, specializing in elder care, but also providing service to other people with disabilities. But his passion is driven by his son, who is about 20 years old, I think he said, and and has Down syndrome. So he is absolutely committed to providing services to those who have these kinds of challenges. So with that, it's my pleasure to concur with the mayor's nomination and ask that we provide a unanimous vote. But before we do that, if we could ask Mr. Magedy to tell us why he would like to serve the city in this capacity.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I mean, given my personal background and how I even got into the business of elder law and my involvement with people with disabilities, I thought this is a way that I could make another contribution.
Great. I like this. Is my kind of guy. Okay. No speakers. You got my vote. No speakers in the queue. Let's, Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, Madam Clerk, congratulations, sir. Madam Clerk, item 13.
Item 13, call sponsored by Councilmember Krikorian.
Yeah, well, I was informed that this is just a note in file, but I do have a card on it. So I want Donna Pearman to come forward on item 13.
Yeah. This is what we're talking about. There's an awful lot of money over here for Municipal Improvement Corporation paper note program. I don't understand why that has to come up with $81 million. So I just want to say that it seems strange that we're talking about millions of dollars and we can't even do things that are smaller amount, like opening up Van Nuys video conferencing. So I just want to say 81 million is too much money. I'm curious to see what it's going for. Thank you.
Okay, you know, I hate to interrupt you, Paul, but there's some confusion from the desk. Okay, so the motion's been made to note and file it. It was made by Paul Krikorian, seconded by me. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay. Mr. Buscaino, let's move to item 3.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I've got, it looks like maybe four public comment cards. So would you like to take the public comment first?
Is staff here? Just want, if I can call staff.
Do we have staff on item 3?
Fantastic. The heavy hitters. Mr. Miller. Mr. Miguel Santana. Thank you, Mr. President. If I can just ask some questions, and we go to public comment.
Fine.
Thank you. So as we know, with CRA, it's now gone away. This really has taken a devastating impact on communities who are reliant on the CRA to spur economic development in their neighborhoods. So I agree it's vital to find a new way to continue this important work where the CRA left off. Specifically in my district, we've had really have a lot of fruits of victory, as Tom Lasorda says when he won the 1988 World Championship. A couple questions regarding the work source centers currently operating under CDD, and from Watts all the way to San Pedro, we have a number of these work source centers that I want to make sure that they continue to thrive and continue to provide a resource in my district. Regardless of where CDD ends up, whether it's the housing department or in the new EDD, I would like to make sure that thought is given on ensuring that the continuity, the services continued provided by the regional offices. In my district, the Harbor Area Office provides vital services to the residents, and I want to make sure that that's not disrupted at any point. what's the plan to ensure the continued service of the regional offices? And secondly, what's the plan to ensure the continued services for the business source centers? How will the regional contracts be handled under the new department?
Miguel Santana, CEO. Very frankly, there shouldn't be any change to the way things are operating today. One of the reasons why we're recommending proceeding forward with the creation of this Economic Development Department is that preparing the workforce and tying them to the jobs that are being created and the development opportunities that are being created is an important part of economic development. And so the structure itself of the WIBs will continue forward in the Economic Development Department as they exist now. So there should be no disruption at all, both at the macro level, at the department level, as well as in the individual WIBs throughout the city.
Okay.
Mr. Parks.
Thank you. Just wanted to get a couple of points of clarification. Several people have been waiting for this, and they certainly support the economic development, but it just seems as though there's not enough meat to give them an idea of what's going on. And I'm just concerned, because we have memories of the community bank, we have memories of what was the other one, L something or whatever, that we almost lost our block grant funding on. And it just seems as though we're moving somewhat quickly without getting an idea of what and how this is all going to function. And it's kind of like saying, you know, have faith. And I'm just wondering, how do we get to the point of understanding with all these pieces that are floating to get into what's really going to happen and how people are going to be served? And when does that come?
Well, I think, as Mr. Santana indicated earlier, the expectation really are things are going to continue to function as they are today. The report and the ordinance contemplates moving positions into the new department. So the concept is that there are greater efficiencies and more effectiveness by having a centralized operation. So I'm not quite sure. You know.
Well, some of the people that are involved in economic development in the 8th District are kind of blindsided because they said they've never had any understanding of where we're going with it. And I've gotten a couple letters they're saying, can you give us more information? Is it information that can be shared? Because it just seems as though we have a shell called the department, and then there's not much that moves from there. And that's what they're asking for. And it's not that they're opposed to, nor are they saying they don't think economic development is a good idea. They just can't get their arms around creating a shell and then saying, well, you know, what is next? When will they begin to get the information? And there's not been any great number of hearings, particularly in the community, where people can actually ask their questions.
Well, I think folks are looking for a dramatic shift in how we've been doing business, and the reason they can't find it is because this is not proposing a dramatic shift. This is the bones, if you will, of a new approach to economic development. The meat, as you talked about, really is going to come as the department itself starts linking itself to what the nonprofit does and working with community-based organizations. The goal here is to bring to the city a level of focus around economic development that we haven't had, that it's been somewhat decentralized among a variety of other departments, and with the idea of bringing in all of the elements under one department and linking them to a nonprofit, then an actual plan will be developed. So, you know, this is the starting point of a much larger conversation. We did have a neighborhood council meeting that Mr. Miller and I presented. It was well over an hour where we walked through the proposal, and there was a lot of important input that came into place. It's part of the reason why the RFP for the actual nonprofit hasn't been released yet, because we wanted to incorporate a lot of the input we received from the community at that hearing. We're also scheduled to meet with representatives of some of the WIBs who came to the committee hearing last week in the San Fernando Valley. So again, this is the starting point. There's still a lot of more work that needs to get done.
And to expand on that a little bit, it's important to keep in mind that much of what some of the community organizations are concerned about really are going to be fleshed out, which is not before you yet, with the contract with the nonprofit as well as a strategic plan. Now, the city has never developed an economic development strategic plan that deals with how the various community organizations are going to be interfaced with, that deals with, specifically targeting investment, et cetera. So through the process of the contract with the nonprofit, which will have a lot of community input, and then the development of the strategic plan, which will be before the council, a lot of the questions that are coming from some of the community organizations are going to get fleshed out in that process. This is simply setting up the internal city structure and reorganizing what we do internally.
My final question then is that in one of the reports, it commented on a number of issues that are unresolved that can be part of the confirmation process of the new general manager. And it just appeared as though many of those are policy issues that it would be probably better to have those approved or in some way flushed out before you hire a general manager. Because if you're going to wait until the confirmation process, it sounds like we're asking the new general manager to actually create the policy when it's, what I understand is that policy should be within the council.
At the end of the day, your council will always approve the policy. Yeah. I think when we refer to the confirmation process, I think it spoke to the approach and the ability to engage in a dialogue with whoever that new general manager is. But at the end of the day, any new policy that will drive both the department, its relationship with the nonprofit, as well as an overall economic development strategy that's citywide, will ultimately be approved by your council.
If you would check your time, Mr. Parks.
Can I give one more question? Then are we saying that the general manager gets hired to help develop that group of policies, or I'm trying to figure the timing?
That's correct.
So you're hiring a general manager and asking them to work through all of these unanswered questions?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a no-brainer what you guys are doing, trying to figure out how we can do economic development properly. For the public to know, the proposed department would provide the proper planning, coordination, promotion, stimulation, and management of economic development activities. It's a no-brainer, but the three questions that everybody needs to ask and get an answer for is, how much additional funding will be necessary to fund a citywide economic development nonprofit? Any sense of that?
Well, obviously, Mr. Santana can't disclose yet what may be in the mayor's budget. It was contemplated that initially $5 million of the additional incremental property tax revenue that we would be receiving because of the dissolution of the CRA would be dedicated for the nonprofit. They would also have other revenue sources, and that would be startup funding.
Sure.
The idea would be over time, not only do they cover all of their costs, but they would ultimately generate additional money that would flow back to the city.
That's very good.
It's also important to clarify that there's been some misinformation that the intent is to add additional general fund to the economic development department itself, and that our reports have been clear is that our intention is to create a department using existing resources.
Beautiful. I love that, and it's more efficient use of those resources and focus more on what we need to do. What is the timeline for having the fully functioning economic development department up and running? Timeline.
Well, the idea would be at least the internal city core would be functioning as of July 1st. The timing on the nonprofit is a bit more uncertain. We'll be back to you within 30 days with additional information that the committee requested on the role of the nonprofit in the contracts and other issues. Once that occurs, we anticipate some sort of a solicitation and to get bids from folks out there that want to fulfill this role. So, we would hope to have a nonprofit in place certainly by the fall.
Okay, my last question is, what kind of public outreach do you have planned once the department is fully functioning?
Well, as I said earlier, we've already begun that process. We had a fairly well-attended neighborhood council meeting here a few weeks ago. We committed to have others at every milestone. We're meeting individually. I know my office, as well as the CLA, is meeting and talking to different groups as they surface and raise questions. And then we're likely to have another series of community meetings as well as the public
That's
committee
music
meetings.
to my ears. The more you involve community, the more it's transparent, the more it's open, the more trust can develop. And even Gary Tobin, I'm fighting with Gary Tobin over his ridiculous notion of what should be done at LAX when regionalism is the answer. Regionalism. But he and I agree on this. So I'd like to say I agree with the LA Chamber on some issues, and this is one issue that I agree with them on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon.
Yeah, council members, we had a number of questions in committee, and there were. I want to say at the outset that I have no problem with the general structure of this this program. These are projects that need to, where you have to have a continuous focus and a continuous ability to improve and assess yourself and then change as the need arises. My staff has been in communication with a number of people in New York City where this model was developed, and there were some things that historical occurrences that I think we should take into consideration as we move forward. One of them was that there was a difference and a political controversy, if you will, about how much investment went to singular big bang projects versus smaller businesses, and in California, where 63% of the jobs, the new jobs, are created by micro enterprises, I think there should be a particular focus on that. So what I would like to introduce is a friendly amendment that would ensure that the RFP incorporates specific language to have the nonprofit address or focus on micro enterprises as well. These micro enterprises in California, by the way, are largely owned by first-generation immigrants, and women are the majority of the owners. And yet 90% of them fail in the first year. It's been a focus of the city. I want to make sure that we maintain that focus in this process. Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. I would also like to mention that there was the issue of the brownfields, the CLA. I think you misinterpreted my comments in committee about who's going to do the economic development for the brownfields. I didn't need a body to move from sanitation into the economic development department. I just wanted to know who in economic development was going to do the economic development for the brownfields. So I think there needs to be an understanding in economic development that they should be mindful of the opportunity to develop brownfields. And I think that there was also in New York controversies related to economically challenged areas, historically economically challenged areas. There was one project in Harlem, for example, that was developed as an incubator, but there was a disconnect between the person that was placed in charge of it and the community, maybe a cultural disconnect. Whatever, the project blew up. It became a controversy, and it did have put a black eye on the project. However, generally speaking, everybody we spoke to in New York thought this was a good model and that much benefit came from it. I would only ask that we take care not to make some of those same mistakes that we learned from their negative experiences as well as their positive experience as we move forward and not fall into the same traps. But otherwise, I believe that it's a good model as long as we've made it very clear, and it is now very clear in the ordinance, that properties that are owned by the city will be controlled by the department, not by the nonprofit, until there is a clear understanding. Oh, if I could just, so I don't have to press my button again one more time, Mr. President.
Yes.
The other serious issue is that every nonprofit contract, the nonprofit's contract, was reviewed by the council every single year, so that they would redo the contract every year to ensure that if there was any interesting experiences during the course of the year, they could adjust to those. And I would remind you that many of us remember, Mr. Hernandez in particular, and I remember the negative experience we had with the Community Development Bank that was developed in the 90s, and some of the loans went way out of control, and it was it really destroyed the energy of the project, and we lost many opportunities. So I would hope that we would take these as contributive comments. I believe this is a model that can work, but we have to retain our focus and control. The council and the mayor have to be very significant control elements in this to ensure accountability.
Okay. Mr. Zine.
Mr. President, the issue regarding the cost, $16.3 million, $300,000 direct costs to $1.7 million, and then you got the issue with the nonprofits. And I remember when we talked about the GRID program and how we had that situation with all the nonprofits trying to receive the contracts. How do you sort this out? How many nonprofits can be involved? The cost involved? When you talk about the nonprofit involvement and all the money that's involved with this, the operation.
You're referring to the citywide economic development nonprofit?
Yes. I mean, you got a lot of nonprofits out there that I'm sure are going to be knocking on the door to say, you know, we want to take this operation. And we had the same situation when we had the GRID, the anti-gang programs. There was a lot of lobbying from many nonprofits regarding that opportunity to have those funds. A lot of nonprofits in Los Angeles. How do we screen that down to say one nonprofit, multi-nonprofits? Miguel, you know how that works. Well, how are you going to pull that together?
I think to some degree, I think we're going to have to wait until we see the responses from the RFP. I think we're going to be open to looking at any good ideas. I think the concept, however, would be that there would be one nonprofit for accountability purposes that would be the transaction arm on actually creating jobs and actually making deals happen. Now, to be very clear, the existing nonprofits that are out there within the communities, the anticipation is that they're still going to function as they're functioning today. They're a vital source of information for what's important for the community and for local economic development. None of this anticipates removing any money from existing nonprofits that they're receiving. This is about setting up a new entity that's going to be transaction-oriented and will be better able to attract businesses, to figure out what it's going to take to get deals done, and to actually create jobs.
But the mayor's office already has that. The mayor's office has that within the mayor's office.
Well, they certainly do have a business team, and the mayor's office is always going to, you know, have a business team. It's going to be very important for the mayor's office to always be centrally involved. What the mayor's office does not have is the transaction expertise, the folks that can, you know, find people who are out there making loans and find people who are out there with equity capital and identifying which sorts of businesses we should be attracting and putting all of those pieces together to actually make deals happen. Though that kind of function is really spread throughout the city right now. I do some of it, and Miguel on some of the site-specific tax revenue issues. You've got CDD involved. You had the former CRA involved. So those functions are not now in the mayor's office. The mayor is going to continue to play a vital role, but the nonprofit is going to be the transaction arm.
And there'll be how many nonprofits involved in the coordination effort?
The expectation is that there will be one overriding nonprofit.
And you think there'll be a fight for that position?
That remains to be seen. The hope is the business community will come together, and the centralized nonprofit that's either formed or from an existing entity that's going to sort of repurpose itself is I think by definition going to have to bring in all of these other nonprofits out there to make sure that they're adequately, you know, serving the community and meeting local needs.
And then the final question regarding no general fund at this time. What do you anticipate the impact on the general fund at a later time? Because the document says at this time.
The expectation is, as we've said previously, $5 million from the general fund as startup funding for the first few years, $5 million per year. That money would come from the additional property tax revenue that we're going to receive because of the dissolution of the CRA.
At the end of the day, the goal here is to actually increase revenue for the general fund. So the projects that this strategy will hopefully help develop will result in new revenues revenues and sales tax and property taxes and hotel tax possibly, and a variety of other sources as we create jobs and increase development in the city.
And has this been vetted through, other than committee, any other process?
As I mentioned from the onset, we had a fairly extensive meeting with the neighborhood councils, brought together sort of the leadership of the neighborhood council, got an opportunity to hear their concerns and questions, address some of the misinformation that's out there. We've also are meeting on an individual basis with any group that asks to meet with us.
What about the chambers?
We did have a preliminary meeting prior to the last action with the business community. We presented this proposal to the Central City Association. I was asked to present it as well at the Chamber of Commerce, at their executive board. And as well, I think there was a presentation at VICA.
Look at your time.
I'm just waiting. This is the last answer. VICA, anybody else?
Yes, some community organizations as well. Remember, this originally was before the council some months ago. We had a consultant that did outreach. We went to committee with their report. It was published. It was presented. There was instruction to do further outreach. So the chambers, the local nonprofits, community organizations, the input was solicited from all of those. This is then the result of that input with the ordinance itself. Again, not the nonprofit, but the ordinance establishing the internal city department.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Mr. Zine. Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much. On this report here, just a couple of questions that you had here in the back on attachment number 3 that I want to have. I think the biggest key, big things find their way, and big things are very important. But as Mr. Alarcon spoke of, and Mr. Buscaino, who's a champion of all things good, small business is the key. If you look at what has changed and transformed our neighborhoods, it's been small business. You know, a real classic example is Broadway, and I know Mr. Weezar is working hard on it. But Broadway went to Pacific Avenue in Huntington Park. You've been to Huntington Park lately?
Yes.
It's unbelievable how it's transformed small business, you know, Old Town America, Main Street. Main Street, Larchmont, which I think you're familiar with, Ventura Boulevard, Jerry, Out Your Way Boulevard. Helping small business is the key, because the frustration that I have is when someone comes and says, I've been trying to get there. There was Mr. Wesson, there was a mayor that was elected, and they said they get a building permit in 99 days. I think that would be something that would be, you know, an operation permit or a business license, some kind of, you know, if they don't have zoning challenges, just to get out the door. That is the frustration. But several of these questions that you have here, I think it's real key that you include not just neighborhood councils, but neighborhood associations and local chambers. If you could expand that as a friendly amendment, because sometimes there's predated involvement. There's a difference sometimes from what the role is or what the community role is, and the value of small business. Bids are very important. You know, even a small bid, just if a neighborhood looks cared for, that attracts people to walk. And I know the planning department is attempting to try to transform the city through neighborhood pedestrian friendly and all that, which is key, but it all starts if it's clean and if it's worked out. In the development process, too, I think it's important that the mayor's office communicate with council. And there used to be more of a defined role that there were council deputies who were planning deputies who worked together. Those deputies must be re-energized and work with the mayor's office on issues so that it doesn't come out of a blue. You know, sometimes the local representative has that knowledge that sometimes the mayor's office doesn't. Is this expected to be implemented by when?
The department itself, as Mr. Miller indicated, will be effective as part of the budget process. So you'll be able to have another discussion around the creation of the department in the context of the budget. We're hoping to release the RFP for the nonprofit sometime in the next 30 days. And have the nonprofit and a final selection done as soon as possible after that.
But it would probably be the new mayor, whoever he or she may be, to select who the people are, as far as the general manager, et cetera, et cetera. You don't think it's going to be in this term of this Mr. Villaraigosa?
It's hard to speculate. I think if you know, there's only 3 months left.
Right.
So it's almost, regardless of the timing of it, I think the department itself as a real department will become effective on July 1st.
Got it. And I just want to thank you and also thank the mayor's office business team that has done work in the past. Thank you, Mr. Wesson. Thank you.
Mr. Englander. Mr. Englander. Welcome back, and I have you on the queue. Is that an accident? Yes. Thank you. Okay. So I do have some cards on it. I have Robert Baird, John Walsh, Sophia Esparza.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Rob Baird with the Community Health Councils. We support the city's efforts to implement a new strategy and vision for economic development in Los Angeles. We understand how vitally important this new initiative is. And we've submitted a letter to the ad hoc committee that outlines our concerns and hopes for this initiative. One item that is particularly concerning to us that we want to bring your attention to is on page 6, item C of this ordinance regarding conveyance of city interests in real property. Based on our interpretation, what this provision seems to do is circumvent state law that in allowing the city to dispense of property without deeming it surplus property. State surplus property law is really important because it implements a protocol to assess the highest and best use of property, particularly as it relates to parks and open space development, housing, school facilities. And before CHC and other advocates can support this proposal, we need to see a similar type of protocol in this measure that looks at highest and best use of surplus property and considers the land use needs of things like parks and open space and housing. I also agree with the CLA's comments that the RFP is a critically important part of this process regarding with the nonprofit. It's vitally important that this RFP include measures for transparency, which is something that New York is just getting around to doing with its Economic Development Corporation, metrics that tie to the city's overall strategy for economic development, and a scope that includes things like livability, affordability, mobility, small business, that are vitally important for economic development but often get lost in the chase for big projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh, followed by, who? Is it Johnson O?
A great man just came in here, the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, Mr. Richard Riordan.
Okay.
On my time.
Okay, Mr.
And I want to apologize for how rude he was to you the last time you spoke.
Look, stay on the subject, Mr. Walsh, followed by Sophia Esparza and Johnson. I think it's O or U.
Okay, you're
on, Mr.
talking,
Walsh.
not me. And he looks years younger. You wouldn't believe he's 69. John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Now, the CRA was canceled by the governor so that the money would, the property tax would come to the city instead of the CRA bureaucracy. So that's $5 million, you said, a bonanza that now comes to the city rather than to the CRA. So what are you going to do with it? Spend it on police the way Mr. Riordan did when he was mayor? No, you're going to spend it on a look-alike CRA called the Economic Development Department. What is that? Please, we don't need an economic, which is going to be all a group of nonprofits. That $5 million, if Richard Riordan was still the mayor, I can tell you where that money would go. It would go to police and fire. That's where it would go. It wouldn't go to creating a new bureaucracy to replace the old bureaucracy, and they don't even have any $5 million to start. $5 million. And when you call paramedics, when Riordan was mayor, they came about a minute and a half to 2 minutes earlier, faster than when Antonio was mayor, and that is because Richard Riordan funded it. You were safer when Richard Riordan was mayor. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Sophia Esparza, and again, I think it's Johnson O or Johnson U. Oh, okay.
Johnson.
Yes.
Good morning. Thank you very much for this opportunity to address you all on this very important issue. My name is Sofia Esparza, and I'm here representing the Southern California Workforce Partnership. I'm also the president and CEO of Chicana Service Action Center, which is the managing entity for the Downtown WorkSource Center in your system. We are here because we believe that it's important to have an economic development department, and we're not against the efforts in terms of that. We're in support of it. However, as part of the WorkSource system that is funding, about 80% of this new department is going to be coming from WIA funds. We believe that the name of workforce development, human capital development, needs to be included in the name of the new department. That is really critical so people understand where we are and who we are and what the services are that we bring. In addition to that, since WIA is going to be a large percentage of the money that's going to be used to form this department, I would really caution the council to look at the use of monies and how they're used so that we don't wind up having additional issues with the federal government. There are limitations to the WIA funds, and the requirements are listed in Section 181 under the labor standards, and it reads, limitation on the use of funds. No funds available under this title shall be used for employment-generating activities, economic development activities, investment in revolving loan funds, capitalization of businesses, investing in contract bidding resource centers, and similar activities that are not directly related to training for eligible individuals. So I really caution that when we move forward, we do that judiciously. I think that it's important that we have an economic development plan, but that we also identify the needs of human capital development through our WorkSource centers. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Good morning, President and all the honorable council members. My name is Johnson Ng. I'm also a member of the Southern California WorkSource Partnership Association, and I'm here to support the formation of this new department. But I just want to, I want to say I'm in total agreement with what Ms. Esperanza have said previously. But I want to make sure that we must find a way to safeguard and ensure that all the WIA funds, workforce and investment dollars, must be spent at the ground level. And also, I think because job is such a critical factor for any economic development activities, I think the new department should be named Economic and Workforce Development. And 18 Center, we currently have an 18 center-wide system to support the job placement and training activities, and I think we should be included and invited to the discussion and the development of this process. Thank you.
No, Mr. Reyes.
My apologies, Council President, but I did want to ask a question regarding council discretion and process and development. And in that context, we touched on it in committee, and one answer I got is that whatever is decided by the nonprofit has to be approved by the council anyway. So nothing goes through without council support. And I understand that principle. But I think what's key here is, as a council representative who is elected by their constituent, there are key issues that deal with how areas should develop, how they evolve, getting the community's perspective as to their priorities and how they visualize and how they see themselves evolving over time, which is different from a company or an entity saying this is what's best for you and these are the reasons because we're going to do this, this, and this. Now, there's a disconnection. It's disjointed, especially when the community needs to come up to speed as to the impacts, street issues, job issues. For example, I had one scenario where someone was proposing a bunch of warehouses that was going to create X amount of jobs. But when it was all said and done, the majority of the jobs and functions were being mechanized. So given the amount of square footage that was at that warehouse, and the amount of land they were going to take, the number of people to be hired was a small fraction compared to another use. So it sounded good, but the reality is the community was not going to benefit to the extent that it could have, given the amount of land that was going to be used up. So it has to start, I believe, the advocacy level has to start from the ground up, from the council's discretion point of view, not at the end. So can you tell me how that is being addressed? It's a major concern of mine. Watching the rail stations come about, watching how we're rezoning whole sections of my district and seeing the potential in other parts of the city, how are we going to be proactive and making sure the voice of the community doesn't get lost in this process? Because essentially I understand it. Nothing goes through without the council approval. But by the time it gets to the council, a lot of work has been done, a lot of money's been invested. It might not be the direction the community wants. So those are the assurances I'm looking for. Can you touch on that?
Sure. First of all, there's going to be a formal process for developing a strategic plan. That is going to be the first role of the department and the nonprofit. You don't have that now. We don't do a strategic plan. That's going to have to be approved by the city council. So the concerns of your district, the areas of your district, the issues that you discussed, those are going to have to get addressed in the strategic plan up front. So I think you have more of a formalized role in the new structure than you do already. And of course, your role is not going to change in the community. The folks in the community are still going to be coming to you with issues, with ideas, and you're going to continue to call me or Miguel or this new department. So it's going to be an iterative process. So I actually believe that the council's role would be enhanced by the fact that the strategic plan has to be approved. Now also, clearly, if there's any city resources involved, if there's any federal money involved, if there's any land involved, all of that has to be approved by the city council. You're not giving up any zoning or land use powers. Even in the particular project you're talking about, if it didn't involve any CDBG money or didn't involve any site-specific tax revenue, if it was not a by right function, then you're going to have exactly the same sorts of rules as you would have today in that. So I don't see that things are happening at the end of the process. I see a lot more happening at the beginning of the process, and none of the formal processes here will change.
Look at your time, Mr. Reyes.
Yeah.
And I was going to add, I think in some ways you'll have, as Mr. Miller indicated, more authority than you currently have or had under the CRA, because under the CRA the work was done in very specific areas, and as you and I have talked about, now that there'll be a broader definition, not just limited to the CRA areas where economic activity was going to take place, the starting point really comes from your offices, and you'll have a contractual relationship with the nonprofit versus not a formal relationship in the same way that with the CRA that has you provide greater level of accountability for what work ultimately gets done.
So in closing, there's two areas I would like to see a report back on. And the action today triggers what? It actually triggers the formation of this new entity?
It creates the new Department of Economic Development, and there's a corresponding ordinance that it would be the first reading of that ordinance.
Okay.
But this is not the nonprofit. This is strictly reorganizing internal city functions at this juncture.
Okay. So the report back that I'd like to see is in this restructuring of this new department, where do we see input from the community in developing the priorities that this new department will be addressing? We have been internally restructuring based on efficiencies and everything that's being claimed here, but I like to know, where does the community input begin, and how does the function of this new department address those priorities instead of top down? I'd like to see a report back. I mean, what's the best way to answer that question? Would it be a report back, or?
Well, I think this is the starting point, right? This is only the bones. Mr. Parks raised similar questions. Ultimately, the actual work itself, the product that tells you, okay, what does economic development mean? What does it look like in specific neighborhoods? That's going to be done in collaboration with your offices, with the mayor's office, and obviously the community. And it's going to begin with the larger strategic plan, but focus within specific context based on your priorities. So we could certainly lay out the opportunities. We did that with the neighborhood councils when we met with them. We laid out all the different places in which they'll be able to have input. But the real work really happens more once the department's in place and on an ongoing basis.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Alarcon.
Council members, I thought I heard a good suggestion from the public commenters when they suggested we change the name from Economic Development Department to Economic and Workforce Development Department, particularly given the use of the WIA money, which would send a very clear picture. And the general population really doesn't know what economic development means in terms of explaining what it is in terms of an action. It's very difficult to understand. Workforce development gives it paints a very different picture. You're clearly talking about creating jobs, and so I think it's a good suggestion. And if I hear no objection from Jerry and Miguel, I would move that we a friendly amendment again to change the name of the department to Economic and Workforce Development Department.
Yeah. What, Mr. Labange?
Can I get a second?
I think that may be a great idea. I think the next time you come here, let us have time to think about maybe there's even a better name. You know, I don't know. But we're really, branding is so important. And I would just suggest that next time we come, have you, Mr. CAO and CLA, look at it, see what other places in the world to try to do it. I'm not sold totally on that, Richard.
There'll be an opportunity in the context of the budget. The budget will be the first place where it will be presented as a formal department. And certainly in the deliberations of the budget, there could be further changes to the name since it will be the first time the department will be rolled out.
Okay, then I would move that we have the CAO in consideration of the budget consider the name of the department that we are now calling the Economic Development Department to be Economic and Workforce Development Department and report back during the course of the budget. Okay.
Okay. Koretz, but wait, no. I've got Mr. Koretz before you, Mr. Labange.
Oh, I'm sorry, you can take my name off the queue. I just wanted to second the motion.
Okay, Mr. Labange.
I would just see if there's anything, you take this time, Mr. CAO. It's a friendly amendment. Whatever name is to brand it, because it's an important step. And maybe this is the right name, but just feel free if there's another name, you know, and maybe have an outreach. Send one of your analysts out, test it out, because this is a great new step. You know, the CRA had a bad name because they did tough things. And the tough things that they did is they transformed neighborhoods through a period of time, which is tough. So think about that, and also check with, isn't Mike LeGrand like thinking of all these new things in ways, or the city planners? Maybe there's something there that you could look at. So that's my request to you. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, it's also my understanding that we need to delete a section from this document. Could you identify it?
Yes, Mr. President. On page 7 of the ordinance, a little cleanup is required. A sentence fragment does not belong there. It's in the middle of the page. It starts, city's approval of a conveyance. That section should be, or that sentence should be deleted. We've already given the clerk a clean copy, and the council, I would suggest the council president make a motion to amend the ordinance. That's
okay. I make the motion, and it's seconded by Mitchell Englander. So let's prepare to. But what are we voting on at this juncture? What's before us?
Mr. President, what's before Council is the Ad Hoc Committee on Economic Development Implementation Report and ordinance as amended. Also amended to include the motion by Mr. Alarcon that the nonprofit should also focus on micro enterprises, the report backs requested by Mr. Reyes, and as well as Mr. Alarcon's additional motion regarding the name of the department.
So did he actually request that it be changed today, or addressed in the budget process?
Yes, okay. Addressed in the budget process.
Then I would view that as a friendly amendment. Yes.
One time, on the small business issue, you have micro enterprises. That's George Jetson word. People understand small business, so I just want to highlight small businesses.
But Mr. Labange, you'll be on the Budget and Finance Committee. You will be working with this directly.
Thanks for reminding.
Can we move on, please? Yes.
Micro enterprise is a legal term. It's defined in state law based on a bill that I wrote, and it defines a business as those with 5 or fewer employees, and that means that that job category creates 63%. That's of the new jobs.
Okay, let's vote on it before somebody else presses their button. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Koretz, before I go to you, I'm going to bring up 2 more general public comment cards. I've got a Cyrus Carr and a Louis Eisenstein. And Mayor Hahn is with us today. Let's give Mayor Hahn a round of applause. We have Mayor Hahn, and we've got Mayor Reardon again. We've got former council member Richard Alatorre. So we've got some great folks. So anyway, Cyrus Carr and Louis, please come forward. Identify yourself.
I'm Cyrus Carr.
Go ahead, sir.
I retired early as a adjunct professor, and I purchased a 6-unit building in Mr. Labange's district, it's a rent. It's under the rent. It falls under the rent stabilization ordinance, and I don't presume to give you a history lesson here, but if we just look at the Federalist Papers, it kind of leaves no doubt how our founding fathers felt about the government infringement on a person's right to his own property, and those rights have been completely stripped away, and how RSO has been deemed constitutional is beyond me, but that also is spelled out in the Federalist Papers, and the Founding Fathers warn against tyranny of the majority. And in this case, of course, tyranny of the majority was designed to protect us from majority rule. And that is the sole reason why we are not a democracy. We are a republic based on representative government. And in this case, of course, the minority are the evil landlords, and the majority are the poor renters. And I just wanted to let you know that...
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next would be Louis. Come forward, please.
Mr. President, this last public speaker has a comment to the council. I'll take it on the ropes.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Louis Eisenstein. I'm a property owner in the city of LA. I just want to say maybe there could be a friendly amendment to change the name of the housing department to the LA Foreclosure and Homeless Department, because that's all they seem to be doing in LA. I want to talk about REAP. REAP takes 100% of a property owner's income. They prey on old and infirmed, and it's a miracle no property owner has gone nuts and made this a national issue. But they prey on veterans, elderly, hard workers who at the end of their life got screwed by the society they worked so hard to protect and grow. It doesn't pay to be honest in LA. It does not pay to be a straight investor in LA. I also want to talk about the lawsuits we have going on that should severely affect the city. We have a REAP lawsuit that we're about to do. It may take a while to complete, but once it's done, every property owner that's been put into REAP will be able to collect damages. So that could cost the city billions of dollars. I just want to talk about the corruption in the LAHD. It's actually it would be better to be run by the mafia than the Los Angeles Housing Department. At least with the mafia, they protect the community. The LAHD destroys the community. It creates foreclosures. It creates homelessness. And the cost of paying the LAHD is huge. I mean, the regulations, the infractions, the fines, and they just go after you. It's very un-American what's happening in the city of LA. And these nonprofits that work with the housing department, they're worse than the cartels. They're so corrupt. It's unbelievable what they're doing in the city and how they're destroying it. And I hope there's justice soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Buscaino, just for a quick shout out.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to introduce Miguel Cordova. There he is. He is a pillar in the Harbor Gateway community. He is our president of the Harbor Gateway South Neighborhood Council and also representative of a state assembly member, Al Martucci, in the state assembly. Miguel, thank you for your leadership. This is a new leader, Mr. President, emerging in local politics, and we just want to thank you, for your service.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. Mr. Koretz, are you ready for your presentation? So, Mr. Koretz, the floor is yours. If I could get Mr. Reyes.
Hey, Jimmy. Hey, how's it going?
Break a leg now.
Colleagues, I'm delighted to host this important ceremony honoring one of the great institutions of Los Angeles, LA's Best after-school enrichment program, which this year celebrates a wonderful 25th anniversary. 25 years ago this month, this extraordinary program was proposed by then Mayor Tom Bradley. He wanted the children of Los Angeles to have safe, supervised places to go after school, where they could gain an enriching experience and find wonderful role models to look up to. Thus, LA's Best was born. The program has grown under each succeeding mayor and city council, changing the lives of more than 350,000 children in the past quarter century. Research has shown that juvenile crime is lower and dropouts are fewer as a result of LA's Best. LA's Best has produced Ivy Leaguers, lawyers, great athletes, and entrepreneurs, while providing all kinds of remarkably beneficial experiences benefiting children, families, and communities across Los Angeles. We've invited several speakers to come to Council today to attest to the merits and accomplishments of the program. First, we will hear testimony from the 4 mayoral administrations that, over the past 25 years, put so much effort and commitment into creating and building LA's Best. Our first speaker, representing the Mayor Tom Bradley Legacy Foundation, is Wanda Moore. Wanda?
Thank you very much. This is a great feeling to be here this morning on behalf of the Tom Bradley Legacy Foundation. I'm Wanda Moore. I had an opportunity to be with the mayor and to actually witness the opportunities when the young people will come in on the office, the special day, open house is what I'm trying to say. I'm too excited here. And this sparkle would come into Tom Bradley's eyes. And he was so delighted with the young people. And he was very concerned about their future. And you've already heard that he was concerned about them having something to do when they got out of school, to have a safe place where they could go and study and learn and be encouraged and to be told that, yes, you can. If you are willing, if you can see it, feel it, believe it, you're willing to work for it, it can happen. Tom Bradley made that happen. And that's how LA Best, under the direction and leadership of Carla Singer, came to be, working together. And it is amazing. They started off with 10 schools, and now I don't know how many, but I know there are like, 28? 189. They're all over the place. They have made a difference. LA's Best became that safe place that they could go to and study and be encouraged. And I stand here to say thank you for 25 wonderful years representing the city of Los Angeles, LA's Best. Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda. Following Tom Bradley, Mayor Richard Riordan embraced this fledgling program when he entered office, and he used his tremendous business acumen to pave the way for rapid growth of LA's Best. We welcome Mayor Riordan to the podium.
Can I introduce you? Yeah. Okay, this is a poem by my good friend Moses, and this is somebody who's going to be a great leader in the future. Go ahead, Moses.
Good morning, council members and guests. My name is Moses Cuevas, and I attend the LA's Best program at Griffin Avenue Elementary School. When I'm mad or sad, my heart droops like it's getting heavier and heavier. I can barely breathe. When someone dies, I can see the sadness in the family. I can see they want to cry an ocean in the room, but the family keeps the tears back. That is why I am glad to have a program that keeps me away from violence.
Great job, Mr. Cuevas. And Mr. Perez, you should know that Griffin Avenue is in my district, and it's great to see young leadership. Thank you. Great job, Mr. Cuevas.
Good job.
You can't compete with people like him. Beautiful. I'm proud to be here. I was one of the first directors of LA's Best, appointed by Tom Bradley, who is really the creator, as we know, of LA's Best. Alan Jonas, who's deceased now, was the head of it, and Mary Odell, who was head of my foundation at the time, was one of the key figures. But we've come a long way. There was a report by the federal government called A Nation at Risk that said if every child cannot read and write fluently by the second grade, or certainly soon thereafter, you've lost that child for life. And I believe every child has the right to a quality education. Whether rich or poor, whatever their color is, they have that right. And we have to fight for that. So my hat goes off to Mayor Bradley mainly, but also today, and certainly Mayor Hahn and Villaraigosa, who have followed through. When we started, we had 23 schools. Now they have 189 schools. And I think also the City Council has to stand up and take credit, because it's in the budget every year that has kept us going and kept us growing. So I think you should give yourself a resolution today taking credit, as well as for the mayors. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mayor Riordan. Even while LA's Best was growing, our media and means for communication have rapidly changed, transforming our world. When Mayor James Hahn became mayor, he helped LA's Best adapt to those dramatic changes in order to best tell its story and help LA's children and families. Mayor Hahn, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Koretz and members of the council, Mayor Riordan, and all the people who are here to celebrate 25 years of LA's Best. Not everything that one mayor starts is necessarily continued by the next one. But when Tom Bradley, and then before he was Mayor Dick Reardon started LA's Best, obviously it was a good enough idea that I certainly wanted to do everything I could when I was mayor to continue it, and so has Mayor Villaraigosa, because it's a great idea. To show that little bit of extra attention to that young person like Moses here or someone else makes all the difference in their lives. We know that those hours right after school are the hours that young kids are most vulnerable. That's when bad kids, bad people try to get them to use drugs or alcohol or do other things that can get them in trouble. And if we could just have a safe place for our young people to go at school and keep them away from those kinds of dangers, away from bad influences, away from crime on the streets, that's what LA's Best does best. And certainly Carla Sanger, congratulations to you and the board here, Jerry Cattell and everyone else here. Carla is an irresistible force here in Los Angeles, and she deserves a lot of applause for that. And all I did was just to try to do whatever she told me to do. So I don't deserve any applause, but certainly everybody who's on the board of LA's Best and all those kids and all those volunteers and everybody else are the ones who really deserve the credit today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hahn. LA's Best was proposed in the course of a State of the City address made 25 years ago. It's therefore very fitting that we celebrate LA's Best even while Mayor Villaraigosa prepares to deliver his State of the City address in a few hours. Representing his administration, please welcome his Deputy Mayor for Education, Joan Sullivan.
So I know that LA's Best was disappointed that Mayor Villaraigosa couldn't be here today, and I know that he was disappointed that he couldn't be here today, but I consider it my great good fortune to be here today. It's an honor to be able to celebrate what I believe is one of the most indisputably impactful education organizations in the city. I want to just say three things, talk about three quick things. One, what I see is the secret of LA's Best. The second, the status of LA's Best. And the third, the wisdom of LA's Best. The secret of LA's Best, well, was revealed to me a little over 3 years ago when I first arrived in Los Angeles. I didn't know much about what was going on here, and my tactic was to speak to pretty much everybody I could to learn about the city and the education landscape. And nearly everybody I spoke to said, you have to meet Carla. You have to learn about LA's Best. And I was astounded by not only the number of people who talked about LA's Best, but the number of people who had an interest in LA's Best, who claimed to have a hand in creating LA's Best, who took credit in the success of LA's Best. And I soon discovered that LA's Best inhabited this sort of amazing vortex, making it the envy of any nonprofit paying attention, which was that all sorts of fantastic and powerful and capable and smart people were affiliated with LA's Best. So LA's Best was fantastically successful. And LA's Best was fantastically successful, so all sorts of smart and capable and powerful people wanted to affiliate themselves with LA's Best. And I think that's a credit to Carla. It's a credit to us all. The second thing I wanted to say was that, yes, this mayor, like everybody else, really loves LA's Best. And LA's Best has expanded during this administration more than it has under any previous administration in its 25 years of existence. It's been said that there are now 189 sites, and what an extraordinary thing that is. This mayor has been committed to LA's Best because LA's Best, the students who participate in LA's Best for at least 3 years or more are 20% more likely to stay in school because they're 30% less likely to commit juvenile crimes, because they show improvement in math and language arts, because, in short, LA's Best works, which brings me to my final point. What's the wisdom of LA's Best? I'd just say two quick things. We often, when we talk about education, we say kids need to learn. It's a misconception. Kids are learning all the time. They're learning during every waking hour. The question is, can we direct that learning? And that's what LA's Best does. There's a long time between the end of the school day and the time kids go to bed. LA Best saw that opportunity, tapped into that opportunity, and they provide an incredible service by giving kids something productive to do in the hours after school. And the second part of what LA's Best understands, part of the wisdoms of LA's Best, is that it's not about imparting to kids knowledge. It's about unleashing what is inside of kids and helping them to discover their potential and their talents and their interests. So it is an extraordinary thing that we're all able to be a part of LA's Best, to take a part in the success of LA's Best. And on the occasion of this mayor's final state of the city, it makes perfect sense for, I think, him and through me to be urging the next mayor to also own and celebrate LA's Best. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. LA's Best is changing lives. How do we know? Well, one way is from the inspiring testimony of those whose lives the program has changed. I introduce you to an LA's Best alumna to tell her story, Mirla Orzua.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mirla Orzua, and I'm an LA's Best alum. I participated in LA's Best while attending Hillside Elementary School in Lincoln Heights and was part of the program from 3rd grade through 5th grade, along with my 2 younger brothers. I came to this country with my parents at the age of 3, and just like all of our immigrant families, really struggled financially. My parents worked multiple jobs just to make ends meet. When my youngest brother got to kindergarten, they started to really worry about what we were doing after school. Education was a big priority for us, but they were not comfortable with the idea that our after-school hours were spent in my grandma's apartment indoors watching TV because we couldn't actually be outside due to the fact that our neighborhood wasn't very safe. My time in LA's Best did not start off beautifully because I was extremely shy. And I did not want to meet new people. I did not want to try new things. I did not want to talk to anybody. But LA's Best really showed me how to gain confidence in myself. It provided me a lot with many firsts. My first Lakers game, my first science fair participation, the first time that I was ever part of a sports team. And I can genuinely say that because of LA's Best, I was able to attend college. My brothers were able to also graduate from college. Many people ask us when they hear our stories, how did you do it? How is it that 3 siblings from Lincoln Heights are able to successfully graduate from college? And I don't know what to answer because we didn't exactly come into this with a plan. What I can say is that there were very many moments in which things could have gone really wrong. And LA's Best was there to make sure that none of that happened during the time that I was in elementary school, and that is huge. I'm proud to say that I graduated from Harvard University with a degree in government. I also have a master's in education from Loyola Marymount, and I currently work for Teach for America, which is another nonprofit that really focuses on providing our students from our highest needs schools with the best opportunities. We focus on the regular school schedule, and LA's Best focuses on the after-school part, and neither one of them can exist without the other. After-school program is tremendous, and I want to thank all of you for honoring LA's Best today, for supporting them over the last 25 years, and honestly for supporting me indirectly, as well as Moses, to get where we are today, and obviously to see where Moses and the rest of our students go on moving forward. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mirla, for that inspiring story. And of course, we know there are thousands more that have taken place over the years. Back in 1988, Tom Bradley gathered 53 community leaders into a room to flesh out the idea that became LA's Best. That brain trust included educators, activists, business people, lawyers, peace officers, and one person who had designed after-school programs in New Jersey, Carla Sanger. Today, she is CEO of LA's Best. a friend to us all, and she's been utterly magnificent in what she has done. Welcome and congratulations. Carla, please share some words with us.
What an extraordinary pleasure. You know, it's said it takes a village to raise a child. There is no village in the world with villagers as magnificent as Los Angeles. Every one of you, everyone in the audience, the extraordinary 3 boards. We have a governing board, we have an advisory board, we have a best friends board, and of course, the serendipity of idea sharing with brilliant mayors and represented by the folks behind me. To be in the mayor's office is so critical to the success of this, and to have the support of a city that says LA's Best is sufficiently significant that even in the hardest times, we want to support it, and we're so grateful and so appreciative. So I thank you for today. I thank you for 25 years. It's hard to believe. And most of all, on behalf of the children and the parents, we're so lucky to be in this extraordinary city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Carres, we do have 3 speakers on the queue.
Pardon?
We have 3 speakers on the queue.
Okay, I still have one more speaker and then some people to introduce, if I could. Carla, of course, is a miracle, but nobody works alone. And over 2 decades, her work partner in building LA's Best has been Debbie Loxton, currently COO of the organization. She has been tireless and highly effective. So if we could ask her to say a few words as well.
You know, from coast to coast, our nation is debating how to protect our children at school. And for 25 years, LA's Best has had that part of their mission statement. We think we are able to keep children safe and supervised and engaged after school, and we're very happy to do that. It's been my pleasure and privilege to hire the staff and to work hand in hand with Carla to work to support LA's Best in after school. And I thank Carla for her extraordinary leadership and her absolute dedication to collaborative partnerships. Carla?
Now, if you'll indulge me for just a minute, we'd like to recognize some of the boards of LA's Best. First of all, I'd like to recognize and ask them all to stand up the board members who have been with LA's Best for 25 years. David Paulson, Trudy Ferguson, Bill Coggins, Sweet Alice Harris, James Rosser, Lois Safian, and June Sale. I'd like to ask the governing board members here today to please stand, including Board Chair Marvin Swomey, Honorable Richard Alatorre, Dorothy Gibbons-White, Sharon Graves, Amy Monahan Hayward, Gerald Cattell, Jamie Kershaw, Sharon Haroon Pierce, Christina Rose, Dean Schramm, Robert Shipp, Candy Spelling, David Travers, and Barry Waldo. I'd like to ask that the advisory board please stand, including Board Chair Alice DeZobri Bowens, Bryant Keith Alexander, Ray Gonzalez, Helen Hartel, Ann Rice Lane, Laura Romero, Virginia Victorin, and Martha Watson. And I ask the Best Friends Board please stand, including Board Chair Amber Holly Melius, Jordan Kay, Paul Keltner, Michael Lynn, Tian Mu, Julie Paluch, and Amoni Roberts. We thank all of you for your service and have certificates of appreciation from the City Council, which we'll give out after these proceedings. I also want to praise the entire LA's Best staff and volunteers, all the supporters, families, students, and countless others who have helped and given of themselves. Now, mark this date down. On June 22nd, LA's Best is celebrating its silver anniversary at the Beverly Hilton in a black tie event produced by Nigel Lithgow. who also produces American Idol and So You Think You Can Dance. Chris Paul, who of course is our Clippers NBA All-Star MVP, will host the event. He regrets that he can't be here now because the Clippers are in the middle of a practice, but he took a break from practice to record a short message for this occasion. So we have a very short video, if we could air that now.
Chris Paul, and I'm happy to announce that I'll be the host of the LA's Best 25th Anniversary Gala on Saturday, June 22nd, 2013 at the Beverly Hilton. I've been involved with after-school programs for years in New Orleans, and now I'm so proud to be associated with LA's Best and their mission to provide education and enrichment for the children of Los Angeles who need it the most. I congratulate LA's Best on 25 years and personally look forward to working with them for years to come.
We are the future. We are the light. We all want peace for all our lives. And we can change things. Yes, we can. With LA's Best, we all will stand. That together we'll be strong.
And we have a plaque we'd like to present, but first, my colleagues would like to say a few words.
Thank you. We do have Councilor Labange on the queue.
Thank you very much. Real quickly, Mayor Hahn, Mayor Reardon, and Mayor Moses, get in the middle right there. Get up there in the middle. Paul, get on the side real quick. And Dick, hold the hands up like the victory. Gary, get that shot, Gary. That's the shot of the... Carla, get on the other side. Book in the mayor there. And it's so special to know that we're all here because of all of you. And this young man, that young lady, your brothers, it's so special. First, I want to thank Mayor Bradley, who opened the doors to City Hall as wide as could be. I was on his youth council at 20 years old. Give a big hand to Olivia Mitchell, who's still with the city, who guided. But I remember the troubled time of the 80s, which was post-1978, where things were stripped that the city used to do, and there was no activity. And at the Board of Education, they stripped any after-school program. And then Mayor Bradley had this idea, and he found the greatest quarterback that any team could have in Carla Sanger, which drove people together. Because the key to success is what the quarterback does to tell the 10 other players in the huddle how they're going to score. And Carla has always scored big for the children of Los Angeles. Carla, I want to personally thank you because you're very special to this institution. Because it also, as Mayor Hahn said, not often one mayor takes what another mayor does. This program is higher than mayors, and I compliment our mayors. And I know Mr. Villaraigosa would love to be here today, but all of that is so special, and the opportunity, and it's very simple. At 301 is where you should have fun and learn. And the more we do at 301, the better it is for the rest of the life and the after-school program. So I want to thank all the volunteers who've done such a great job, and Carla Sanger, and Wanda Moore, who single-handedly ran the mayor's office, right, Richard? Single-handedly kept everything in line. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, LA's Best. Thank you, Mayor Hahn. Thank you, Mayor Reardon. And thank you, Mayor Moses.
Okay. Our next speaker is Councilmember Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, listening to the presentation here at Council Chambers and hearing how much of an impact Mayor Tom Bradley had in the city, I get it. The reason why Tom Bradley got the importance of providing an opportunity for kids to be safe after school is because he was with the Los Angeles Police Department as a lieutenant of police. He got the importance that kids deserve a place to go after school. He got the importance that we need to not only provide a safe haven for kids after school, but also to increase and enrich their lives in the city of Los Angeles. And I'm sure what Tom Bradley did was he started this program, and I know other cities across the country modeled LA's Best program to ensure our kids are safe. And if you look at today, the Los Angeles Police Department, and how our crime reduction at all-time historic lows since the 50s. It's because of programs like the LA Best. And I can truly attest to having a safe haven for kids after school, because I remember after school going to a homicide scene involving a 13-year-old kid in San Pedro. I'll never forget that. So we want to thank you for your continued dedication and commitment to the Moses of the city of Los Angeles. Thank you for ensuring that our kids have an opportunity to succeed beyond the bell. And I want to thank the leaders of our city families that continue to embrace this. And as chair of the ad hoc committee on juvenile justice and gang intervention prevention, as long as I'm sitting in this chair, I will continue to support our kids and ensure that they are safe moving forward and to provide them more opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Buscaino. Councilman Huizar.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Congratulations to LA's Best. You know, there's something that the school district and the city does well together. It's the LA's Best program. We always talk about how we could work closely together. We always talk about joint use. But there's one thing that works well, is the joint use of our young people at the after-school hours. So congratulations to the staff, to the board, to all the boys and girls who've been part of this, to Carla, to my good friend Mayor Reardon, who recruited me to run for the school board way back then, and reminded me when I was there about the importance of LA's Best. My good friend Mayor Hahn, who also we worked well together when I was the school board president there. But Carla, whether it was a school district or here in council, I'd love to see you come up and advocate for LA's Best. And you were tenacious. You come to us with a lot of history. Everyone respects you. And I think at the end of the day, your tenaciousness kept this program going when we needed the funding, even in these tough times. But we know this is a quality program. When we talked to the school district about the number of cuts we had to make, and unfortunately we had to make a lot of cuts to our arts programs, to our music programs, it was not an easy thing to do. But one thing was certain. We made sure LA's Best kept going. So congratulations to all of you.
Thank you. Councilman Rosendahl.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First, shout out, League of Women Voters. Stand up again, would you please? You're the one that got me involved in the various issues. Yeah, stand up again. As we worked on the League of Women Voters and all those issues, you always stayed focused on this. And I always appreciated the energy that you gave. But to see two mayors agreeing together, working together, believing together, tells the whole story, folks. This was a creative, great idea by Tom Bradley. We all love Tom Bradley. But then for the next mayors to see the value in and to build on it and to expand on it and to continue it. Moses right behind Paul. Hi, baby. Good to see you, brother. We were chatting in the back of the room. He was comparing notes with me. And when he said Moses, I said, "You're going to show us the promised land?" So it's a beautiful moment for all of us, and I want to thank everybody for making LA's Best, especially the two mayors standing here in the room today. God bless you. Thank you.
I do want to take a moment. It's with great pride to see such great success stories from Lincoln Heights. Growing up in Lincoln Heights myself, I know what struggles youngsters go through. If it were not for LA's Best, all that you have done as a body throughout these years, the mayors for your leadership, more importantly, letting the youngsters know that someone cares, that there is love out there, and that they have a reason to succeed, is the ultimate message from my point of view. So congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Cuevas Moses. And our Harvard grad, I would love to say that, Harvard grad from Lincoln Heights. Congratulations. And thank you, Paul, for bringing everybody here.
So I have a plaque I'd like to present, and I'll just read from a little bit of it. It reads, "The City of Los Angeles proudly salutes LA's Best on this joyous 25th anniversary occasion. Throughout its remarkable history, LA's Best has changed multitudes of lives and communities for the better, while making a grand and essential difference for all of Los Angeles. LA's Best has been magnificently successful in helping countless young people and their families. Our grateful city hereby congratulates LA's Best and commends and congratulates all involved during the past quarter century of greatness. And so I think this is LA's Best plaque as well.
Wow. Chair. This is our Chair Emeritus, Jerry Patel, Chair of our Advisory Board, Alice Desabry Bowens, and Chair of our Best Friends Board. We've got Amber Millions.
So, I'll make this presentation.
Let's give them another round of applause. They definitely deserve it. And congratulations to you all. Mr. Labonge.
Record, let's give a hand for Mr. Koretz. That is the largest plaque ever given to any group. Shows how valuable.
It is the heaviest, too, I think.
He wants us to adjourn to the
Go in the
back
back
room.
room?
Yes. Yes.
Great job.
Mayor, he wants us to go to the back.
Yeah, we're going to go to the back.
Yes.
Sure.
Please. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That is one heavy.
Mr. Parks, are you ready with 29? So 28, I'm sorry. So, wait, and 28 and 29, and we'll go to those items.
Thank you very much. On item 28, which we'll deal with first, is a renewal of a reward motion on a case that occurred on Tuesday, January 17, 2012 at 3:40 p.m. 31-year-old Roy Milton Love Jr. was in the driver's seat of his red 2000 Ford Taurus and was parked in front of 6320 Raymond Avenue. He was talking to a young lady by DeSanti Tarver, who was in the passenger seat. A male suspect approached the driver's side of the vehicle from the rear and began firing a handgun, in which he struck both victims. Mr. Love died from these injuries. Ms. Tarver survived. I want to make one technical correction on it. It should be a $75,000 reward renewal, and we'd ask the public, if you have any information on this case, is to contact Detective Lyman Doster, Criminal Gang Homicide Division, at 213-485-1385. And that's item 28. 29.
In fact, Mr. Parks, I have one public comment card on 28. Mr. Walsh, item 28.
John Walsh, blogging at jwalshconfidential.wordpress.com. We agree with everything you've said. We have been asking now for a year for a rundown of the effectiveness of the rewards. Now everyone's asking it because of Dorner. How many rewards are out there? How much money is out there? How many rewards have been given? How many people have qualified? How many people have asked? How many people have been rejected when they ask for a reward? Does the reward have to have the capture and the conviction? What is happening? All I see is grandstanding up here talking about rewards and extending rewards. I want to know how effective it is. I want a report. And otherwise, it doesn't seem to be very effective. HollywoodHighlands.org. How many people are in jail for murder because of the rewards?
Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Parks, on item 29.
29. We'd ask also to renew a reward motion on a case that occurred in December 2010 at 9 p.m. involving a victim by the name of Craig Alexander Sykes, who was shot while standing in the street talking to a neighbor inside of her car at 6407 South Arlington. A male, a black, approached Mr. Sykes with a gun and began firing at him. Upon the ambulance responding to the scene and taking Mr. Sykes to the hospital, he is deceased. We'd ask that any information on that case, contact again Detective Lyman Doster, Criminal Homicide Criminal Gang Homicide Division at 213-485-1385, and this is a $50,000 renewal. We'd ask approval on both 28 and 29.
Okay, Madam Clerk, if we could please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, that item is approved. Let's go to item 8. I did have a card from Mr. Walsh, but I've been informed that he's out of time. So now we're on item 8, members. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Forthwith. Okay. Now we go to item 21, which was held by Mr. Walsh. Let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
We'll go to item 1 that was held by Mr. Murphy. Sean, you can please come forward, and Mr. Walsh, who's out of time. But Sean, this is on item number 1.
Item 1 it's lean, so I'm against it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Murphy. Members, let's prepare to vote on this. Madam Clerk, if you'd open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next, we'll go to item 2, which was held by Michael Carrion. And there's a Tom, and Tom, I can't make out the last name. So why don't you come forward, since you're right there, and help me out with that. Yes, sir.
My name is Tom McCarty, M-C-C-A-R-T-Y. I submitted the application, and I only put in a card because somebody else did, and I'm happy to answer any questions in support of the application.
All right, if you would just stand on the ready. Michael Carrion.
Another liquor license in CD 14. And where's Mr. Weezer? He's too busy at a photo op to stand here and explain why he wants to allow another liquor license in CD 14. It's become the capital for alcoholism. Give everybody a license to sell more liquor, to create more alcoholism. Yet, everyone sitting here has something else to do. They're all looking at their papers, looking at their screens. We got ex-cops here who can tell you alcoholism is one of the worst killers in this county, especially this city. If you drive through Los Angeles at 1:30 in the morning, you'll see more drunks than you do in the rest of the world. Yet, my council member continues to approve them. But yet he only continues to approve them for larger corporations. For the large companies get liquor licenses, but the small mom and pops that you run out of business don't get them. So Mr. Weezer was against legalizing marijuana, but yet he's here for legalizing liquor. He continues to pass these things in his district, which I guess we're going to have to start a petition to get him out of office before his re-election, since he doesn't want to be here, at least to face the public on some of the comments or some of the issues that he has. His priorities are taking pictures with the ex-mayors, so he has something to put on his wall or his Facebook. He's more important. That's more important than dealing with giving liquor licenses out. And again, nobody's even sitting here.
Thank you. Your time is up. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now we'll go to item 7, called by Donna Pearman. Donna, if you please come forward.
This is about transferring money. That's, it seems like it's a lot of money to be transferring money from one spot to another. One area is apparently not doing very well, so that's why they need money transferred. But they don't have money for the video conferencing for Van Nuys. It's ridiculous.
This
you don't
is
know how
not
to use
regarding
money.
the Van Nuys.
Stay on
It's
the subject,
transferring
Donna.
money. You apparently don't know how to use the money. So I'm against transferring money. Thank you.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. If we could open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, next item. Item 9, Mr. Murphy, Sean Murphy. Mr. Murphy passes. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Now we go to Mr. Murphy again. Item 24, Sean. Item 24.
Item 24, I support. Item 9 was the Water and Power bill. I don't like them. Thank you.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now we'll go back to general public comment. Donna Pearman, John Walsh. Is it Alan Arnold? Yes, Ms. Pearman.
Okay. Anyway, I sent out a missing in action MIA for Eric Garcetti. Please come back. We miss you. Despite that, I think Eric Garcetti would be a great choice for mayor. Dana Zine, best and only choice for controller. That's why I got this hat. Derek Willeko for CD6, Cardenese old seat. He loves his district and made great plans for Van Nuys, Panorama City, Arleta, Sun Valley. Reopen Van Nuys video conferencing. Antonio Villagrosa would not listen. Staple Services fund it. It's a power play, not about money. And it's a crazy thing to limit high-capacity guns, ammunition. We need them. 7 million Jews died in Europe after they were disarmed. Tower Babel Jews were enslaved after their weapons, knives were taken to build a tower to God. We need high-capacity guns. In Connecticut, guns do not go off by themselves. We need to endorse laws against criminals, not against law-abiding gun owners. We need to have the firepower to protect ourselves against wild lunatics who can get the wild capacity guns. Maybe save other lives as well. 20 children are not more important than thousands of lives or more. Criminals can get high capacity guns. So these laws won't work. That just means more bullets so you can use for protection. You're in an area that and you have to get out as much as you can to save the lives of you and the people around you. And you might need a lot of ammunition. So this is just the laws against the law-abiding gun owners, and that's against it. And it's just like they want to take the way things away from the city employees who are good city employees. And I just last of all just say, open up video conferencing. This is ridiculous. You're shutting off the people in the valley. That's all you're doing. You're cutting them off.
Thank you, Ms. Pearman. So Mr. Walsh, followed by Alan Arnold, I believe, followed by Rush. Is it Azusa or Zuma? Yes, Mr. Walsh.
Visit jwalshconfidential.wordpress.com. You will see the X-rated version using lookalikes of Kevin James bestowing his seal of approval on Eric Garcetti. Anybody but Eric Garcetti for mayor. And, of course, Zine, once, now, forever, 8 years of Zine. Vote twice. 8 years of Zine for controller. 2020. You've created a confidential secret commission that doesn't have to obey the rules of the Ethics Commission. This is Uncle Herb up here. And we have no idea where they're meeting, what's happening. I have a complaint. I sent several requests for Public Records Act to your son, Justin. I have heard nothing from your son, Justin, or anybody else at your office. Mr. Wesson, I think it was really nice that we had 2 ex-mayors here. We didn't get them to hug. I was hoping they'd hug, but we did get a cold handshake between both of them. And we now hear that it's pretty certain that Mayor Hahn will be endorsing Ms. Gruhl pretty soon, joining Reardon, which is quite an adventure. The meetings are supposed to begin. Incidentally, Herb has a new idea. He now says the meetings begin approximately at 10 a.m. Now, you know that Garcetti didn't show up at all in February because Herb excused him. Herb excused him because Herb has decided that he's backing the man. He wasn't here in February. He was here for one meeting in March because of a contract, and now he isn't here in April. You want to know where Garcetti is? He's right now in Hollywood campaigning. He should be here, and you people sit up here with your middle finger up your brown eye and allow Garcetti to do whatever he wants.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. So do we have Alan Arnold? Russ? No Russ? Michael, carry on.
Once again, my councilman is not here again. He's at a photo op. I think it's about time we come to the conclusion that he's not going to be here anyway, even when he is here. So, Mr. Weezer, wherever you're at, stay there, because it's going to be a recall pretty soon. When we can't get a cracked sidewalk fixed in El Sereno for 9 months, a cracked where the cement is popping up, we can't get it fixed. Why? Because the incompetence people that he has working in his office in the El Sereno office. So what does he do? He spends all his time worrying about getting a little choo-choo train for downtown LA. But we can't get a sidewalk fixed in El Sereno. That goes to show you the type of people he has working for him. Incompetent. And the poop goes uphill. It starts with him. He's been told about this several times. I've tried to sit down and talk to him. I've called him 3 weeks ago. I'd let him know that all these projects that are in El Sereno are just on a standstill because he's too busy downtown. Well, if you're not going to support the El Sereno district, we're not going to support him. Better yet, we know in 2 years he comes up for election. So let's start now. I will start a campaign to get him recalled now, and I will start a campaign to vote for anybody but him next year, in 2 years, when he comes for office. So he does not have to bother calling me. He does not have to bother to say, oh, how much great things he's going to do for El Sereno. He's shown it. He's done nothing for El Sereno but put his nose up to it. So we're going to put our nose back up to it. So he doesn't have to call me. He'll see my actions. Will speak for themselves.
Thank you,
We'll
Michael.
be here more often.
Thank you, Mr. Carrion. Madam Clerk, what is still on the desk or what is before this body?
Council has motions for posted and referral.
Okay, consider them posted and referred. Mr. Krikorian.
14 forthwith, please.
Could we? Okay, go now.
7 and 14 forthwith, please.
Okay, without objection on those items. Okay, announcements, members. Announcements. Okay, let's all rise for adjourning motions. If we could all rise for adjourning motions. I'm looking to my left. Any adjourning motions on this side? Mr. Parks.
Thank you. That is, we adjourn in memory of Robert Lee Mason Sr., who was born in July 1934 in Bolton, Mississippi, passed away March 28, 2013. He was the sixth of 11 children born to Dan and Obie Mason, attended Orange Hill and Robertson Smith Public School, accepted Christ at an early age, and attended the Orange Hill Missionary Baptist Church. Robert and his brothers were taught by their parents to be responsible and productive. From the early age, Robert and his siblings worked in their father's clearing and plowing fields in their farm. Robert married his wife Eddie Mae Gilmer in 1952, and together they settled in Bolton. He was also always dreamed of owning his own land, and in 1954, his dream came true. In August 1957, after insects destroyed his cotton crop, he moved his wife and 3 children to Los Angeles, where they then set up and established his own business. With the assistance of his brother, the Mason Maintenance Company was established. The company flourished under Robert's leadership, allowing him to employ numerous friends and family members. He also assisted other friends and family members in getting help them to establish their own businesses. In 1972, after paying off his land, Robert moved his family back to Mississippi. Over the next 40-plus years, he enjoyed living in the country, hunting, fishing, clearing the land, and being in the company of his family and friends. Robert was preceded in death by his parents, Dan and Obie Mason, and his wife, Eddie Mae Mason. He's survived by his 5 children, Dorothy, Teresa, Robert Jr., Felicia, and Marcus, and also his niece, Christine Dixon, who is the 8th District Constituent Center Director, and a host of other family friends. His services were held in Bolton, Mississippi.
Thank you, Mr. Labange.
Members, I ask the Los Angeles City Council adjourn in memory of Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister of Great Britain, of England. And also I ask we adjourn in memory of Anne Smedinghoff, the 25-year-old diplomat who was killed at a roadside incident in Afghanistan, a native of Chicago, went to Johns Hopkins University. Her father talked about her love of working in the Foreign Service, and Secretary of State John Kerry spoke so eloquently about her tragic passing. And remember all those in that incident who lost their life.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Any more adjourning motions? This council is adjourned. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Mr. Alarcon.
I apologize. I did have an adjourning motion. I want to adjourn in the memory of Ricky L. Stamps. He was the brother of Veronica Hendricks from our city family, who works in Communications Division of the city's Emergency Management Department and formerly with the Commission on the Status of Women. Ricky was born in San Fernando, California on July 6, 1964 at San Fernando Hospital to Olefeo and Christine Stamps. He grew up in Pacoima, California. His family faithfully attended and served at Calvary Baptist Church in Pacoima, where he accepted Christ and learned his teachings at an early age. Ricky attended Broadus Elementary, formerly known as Fillmore Street Elementary, San Fernando Junior High. He graduated from Kennedy High School in Granada Hills and from Cal State University Northridge. For many years, he was a probation officer with the County of Los Angeles. He held that position until his untimely passing on March 25, 2013. During his tenure as a probation officer, he impacted the lives of many at-risk youth. He worked with them on fundraising projects, gave advice about staying in school, and mentored them as he provided critically needed life skills for those who came in contact with him. He was a loyal, committed, and long-standing member of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. Through them, he gave of his time to both the community and mentorship programs for young men. He married in 2005 in Van Nuys, California. He and his wife made their home in Lancaster, California. He leaves to mourn a loving wife, Shamita Stamps, daughter Chazja Stamps, mother Christine Stamps, siblings Veronica Hendricks, Roxanne Washington, Monty Stamps, nephews Matt Hendricks, Artis Hendricks, and Andrew Washington, niece Amanda Washington, many relatives, friends, fraternity brothers, co-workers, and countless young people whose lives he has impacted over the years of service and care. He was a great husband, father, son, brother, uncle, and friend. He will be truly missed.
Thank you. Any more adjourning motions? Now, Mr. Buscaina.
A quick announcement, not an adjourning motion, but I want to wish John Larson, 31 years old. Happy birthday, John. I want to ask you, colleagues, what were you doing at 31 years old?
I was working here.
Oh, there you go. Happy birthday, John. We love you.
Happy birthday, John. With that said, this council meeting is adjourned.